Hey guys, for today's video, I'll be going over the new DURIN kit leaks that have been revealed in the 6.2 V1 beta, and I'll be going over what teams he could fit in since he seems to be the versatile pyro supports and sub DPS we've all been waiting for. Starting off with DURIN's kit, to summarize, it seems like he'll be able to switch between his light and dark forms by using his skill to switch to his light form and using his normal attacks to switch to his dark form. His light form will allow him to be played as a pyro applicator and rush shredder, while his dark form will allow him to act as a sub DPS in Melt and Vape Teams. And it also seems like he'll be an ultimate dependent character, since the majority of his value is only unlocked when using either one of his forms' respective ultimates. Not only that, but he's a magic right character, which means that he gets buffed when paired with other magic right characters like Visual, Sucrose, or Albedo. For his skill, it deals AoE pyro damage around DURIN, then he enters the light states. The skill seems to be pretty mediocre since it doesn't do continuous AoE pyro damage around him, like the Pyro Traveler, meaning that it won't be good for pyro application, nor for anything else. For his special normal attack, he deals 3 consecutive instances of pyro damage, then enters his dark form. The skill also seems to have little value since it too doesn't do continuous instances of pyro damage, but rather only 3 consecutive hits. Now, even though these skills do seem pretty mediocre, his skill also states that he regenerates up to 33 energy when he uses a skill, meaning that the majority of these skills' value comes from the fact that he can regenerate almost half of his ultimate energy in one skill use. Also, for anyone wondering, the sacrificial sword won't really work with him since apparently he only regenerates 33 energy every 6 seconds, so you can't just use 2 consecutive skills to max out his ultimate like with Jincho or Bennett. Anyways, for his ultimate, he has 2 ultimates because the ultimate he does is dependent on his current form. If he's in the light form, he deals 3 instances of pyro damage, manifests as the White Flame Dragon, and he does continuous AoE pyro damage. This ultimate will only have decent pyro application, since even though his pyro application is triggered as long as the active character is near an enemy and it gets triggered on the enemy themselves, the pyro application of his attacks is even worse than someone like MiHoYo because he has a regular 2.5 ICD, meaning he can only apply pyro every 2.5 seconds like your typical character. For his second ultimate, he also does 3 instances of AoE pyro damage, but this time he manifests as the Dragon of Dark Decay and does continuous single target pyro damage rather than AoE pyro damage. The second ultimate will allow DURIN to do powerful single target pyro damage in Melt and Vape Teams, because his dark form talent states that if he manifests as the Dragon of Dark Decay, he deals 40% more melt and vaporize damage. For his light form talent, it states that if he manifests as the White Flame Dragon, when nearby allies trigger a pyro reaction, the enemy's elemental resistances will be lowered by 20% based on the elements involved in the reaction. This will allow him to be a powerful and versatile pyro support that you can slot into pretty much any team that benefits from pyro application. For his other talents, it states that his ultimate damage is increased by 50% of his attack, up to a maximum bonus of 1000 damage. This means that if you want to increase DURIN's ultimate damage, he's gonna want to be built with minimum 2000 attack. For his other talents, it relates to the Magic Right effect, which is a new effect similar to the new Blessing of the Moon effect that increases lunar reaction damage, or the classic Elemental Resonance effect, except this time it gives unique buffs to DURIN, Venti, Albedo, Klee, Sucrose, Razor, Mona, and Visual, as long as there are 2 magic right characters in the same team. Anyways, point is, if there is another one of these characters on the team, it increases his rush shred and melt and vaporize damage increase by 75%, which means that he'll now shred through 35% resistances rather than 20%, and do 70% more melt and vaporize damage rather than 40%. Anyways, as of right now, DURIN seems like a very versatile character that can be used as a pyro applicator and pyro supports in any pyro reaction related team, or as a powerful pyro sub DPS in Melt or Vaporized teams. For his signature weapon, it has a 33% crit rate main stat, and it increases his burst damage by 16%. It also increases his attack by 16% and the active character's attack by 12%, which is really nice for both his sub DPS and supportive playstyle. It also states that when the Magic Right effect is in place, the aforementioned effects are increased by 75%, meaning that he now gets 28% attack and the active character gets 21% attack, which is honestly a massive attack boost for both him and the active character. For his Constellations, his C1 increases his burst damage by 25%, and he gives allies 12 stacks, with each stack increasing the damage of their attacks by 60% of DURIN's attack when he's in his light form. This will be a really good supportive damage bonus, similarly to Shanyun or Shunha's damage bonuses, but if he's in his dark state, he gives himself 12 stacks, and he consumes 2 stacks every time he does damage to do more damage based on 100% of his attack. This will be a pretty good boost to his own DPS, but I doubt it'll be better than his signature weapon. For his C2, it provides a 50% damage bonus when characters trigger a pyro reaction for the elements involved in the reaction. This constellation will definitely be one of his higher priority vertical investments because it's pretty much the Cinder City effect but 25% better, which is extremely valuable. For his teams, it seems he'll be good in Vaporize, Melt, Overload, Overvape, Swirl, Burning, Burgeon, and Geo teams, and he'll sometimes be especially good in those teams if there's a magic right character in them. For his Vaporize teams, it seems his pyro application isn't anything insane, and most hydro characters will continue to apply way too much hydro for them to be able to vape their attacks. Thus, in a vape team, DURIN will most likely be acting as a powerful sub DPS who's going to be vaping his attacks rather than applying enough pyro for the hydro characters to vape their attacks. Not only that, but in a Morlani team, Mona can be slotted in with DURIN so that both of them can receive massive buffs and improve Morlani's performance. For his Melt teams, it seems like the same thing applies. His pyro application isn't actually insanely good, so he'll mostly be acting as a sub DPS rather than as a support. For his Overload teams, he'll be a really good replacement for Bennett with his light form, because if you replace Bennett in your conventional Overload teams, DURIN will be slotted with Fischl, which will cause the both of them to get massive buffs from being slotted with each other because they're both magic right characters. You could also use DURIN and Fischl with Racer now, since he's an even better DPS than Raiden in Overload teams after these buffs. Also, as of right now, Linus' best teams will once again be Monopyro in Overload teams, because DURIN and Fischl's buffs are now better than Furina and the Vape Reactions' damage boosts. For OverVape teams, this one is a bit complex, since you can use him as both a support or a sub DPS, but his playstyle will probably depend on what element the main DPS is. If your main DPS is a Hydro character, then you'd probably be better off using him as a sub DPS so that he can vape a lot of his hits. But if your main DPS is an Electro character, well then using him as a support to buff their damage would probably be more ideal, since he won't be vaping as much of his hits. For Anemo teams, DURIN will be a good replacement for Bennett, but a better option than Bennett when paired with another magic right character like Mona or Albedo. Thing is, you'll probably want to use both Bennett and DURIN in an Anemo main DPS team, simply because Bennett can sustain the team unlike every other magic right character. But for Chaska, considering that DURIN can't shred cryo or hydro reactions, you'll want to use his dark form with Chaska unlike with other Anemo main DPS characters, so that he can do powerful vape and melt sub DPS. For burning teams, DURIN will become one of the best pyro applicators for Knight, because he can provide consistent pyro application and rush red. For Burgeon teams, although DURIN's ICD is pretty average, he'll probably be the best option because of his continuous AoE pyro application and his really high rush red. For Crystallize teams, DURIN will be good because he can be used with Albedo, who is another magic right character, meaning that DURIN can get that 75% increase to his talents, and Albedo can provide up to 66% more damage to all allies. Anyways, that's all I've got for today. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If you wish to know more, you can click on the video to the right. With that being said, goodbye.